Welcome everybody to the Scale Up Show. This is your host, Ryan Staley, and I have a very special guest with me today. I have Greg Rich. Greg is not your average tech CEO. He actually started with his journey in the world of customer service at the age of 13 because it was rooted in his family's business. He had his first taste of tech there, and now he's currently leading Vivantio, which is boasting over 300 customers, over 100,000 daily users for a SaaS solution specifically related for customer service operations. Greg, welcome. Happy to have you on the show, man.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. Nice to be here.
Yeah. I'm excited to go through this. I love the fact that, you are a grizzled veteran when it comes to customer support, going all the way to 13. So real quick, before we get into your background, though, I would love to go and do a quick revenue rundown. So where are you guys at in the stages of journey in terms of your ARR?
We're just shy of 5 million.
Okay, excellent. Congratulations. There's not very many people that get to 5 million. And so what's your primary go-to-market strategy when it comes to revenue growth?
So there's a number of things that we do. It's one of those things that's obviously changed over a period of time. We're a 20-year company, so the Google AdWords that we did in the early days don't work for us these days because of the competitors that we're up against, the Goliaths that are out there. So we have to be more agile. We have to be more dynamic in terms of our approach. So most of what we do now is through outbound campaigns in particular, but we think about how we sort of structure that over multiple channels. But we put together white papers, a lot of blog posts, and really it's our job to try and educate people about what service management optimization can kind of mean for B2B customer services teams. So these are things that we've been doing in IT for the last 2 decades really effectively, but now we're thinking about how we can actually take that those best practice frameworks and push those across other service departments in the organization. So for us, it's kind of an education play. We have case management solutions have been around for decades, and Vivantio have something to offer. And part of that has been, how do we get out to people? How do we talk to people? So thinking about our ideal customer profile, the right titles, and going out, one deal at a time, and getting our message across. That's kind of where we've been focusing our time at the moment.
Okay, excellent, man. And can you walk us through your solution in like 2 or 3 sentences, just so everybody has some context in terms of where, like, exactly who you serve and how it works?
Yeah, so as you already mentioned, so we're a service management software solution, software platform. We're aimed at sort of mid-market to enterprise organizations who are looking to scale beyond basic case management, or who have got large enterprise solutions and are looking to kind of reduce their ROI. And where we differentiate is that our solutions kind of democratize the technology, so it allows people that are not IT centric or don't have those IT skills or have access to engineers to implement enterprise service management solutions easily, through configuration and through rapid deployment. What we're finding now is that there's a huge tech shortage in the industry, and there's a big reliance on operations managers to have the tools that they need to do their job, but have the skills and the ability to make those changes rapidly. And so our solutions solve those problems for those people.
Okay, excellent. So, what would you say are like the biggest quantifiable results that your solution creates?
It's a number of things. I mean, when we talk about service optimization, we have one customer that managed to get something like a 27-click process down to a single click. So, something that was taking them maybe 5 or 10 minutes, down to a click of a button. And the other is when we think about enterprise service management, it's the scalability across the business. The ability to be able to actually provide service and support across the entire organization. So the economies of scale you get within those teams can be huge.
Okay, love that. And then how large is your team?
We have 45 staff now, across the UK and the US.
Okay, love that. And then are you bootstrapped or funded?
We're still bootstrapped, yeah. We took a small debt round earlier last year, but we haven't taken any funding to date.
Congrats, man. So way to get to 5 million without funding. So, all right. So let's get into your background a little bit, and we just love to hear how you got here, how you created this company, and just love to hear your journey. So can you give us the background on that?
Yeah, sure. So as you already mentioned, started at an early age, working with my parents in their residential home back in the southwest of England. And my first proper job was working in social housing in the southwest for one of the largest social landlords. So this is an organisation that's provided, either low cost housing to people, sheltered accommodation, helping, children, care homes, things like that. So it was a very important cause for me. Coming from a customer care or a service background, but it was the first time I managed to get my hands on technology. This is back in the early '90s, late '80s, early '90s, and it brought a kind of love of those two things together. I'm also quite a creative person as well. I play a lot of music, make a lot of furniture in my spare time and things like that. Do a lot of design work. So it was just all of a sudden technology was a way of harnessing all of those things together. Thinking about creativity, not just in terms of designing things, but in terms of finding solutions to problems within the organization and how we can solve those problems for the people that are providing a service to our tenants. That was what was really important to me. How do we
Mhm.
ensure that the people at the housing association, the social landlord, were able to do their jobs because what they were doing on the front line was really important. It mattered to people. People had problems with their property, maintenance problems, or they couldn't pay their bills. So these are things that it was a trickle down effect. I was thinking, well, I'm having a direct impact on people's lives, and that was really important to me. So that it was great to be able to use that creativity and technology to help solve some of those problems. And then after about 10 years of working at Nightstone, the other co-founder, myself, Russell, we realized that there was an opportunity around the early 2000s where, cloud-based software was becoming a thing. Online banking was starting to come out, and on-demand was a term that was starting to be bandied around. And we saw an opportunity because there was very little in the low to mid-market space of help desk software. Certainly not web-based. And we were the first or the first company to actually launch a solution back in 2003, which is a pure multi-tenant, SaaS-based architecture designed to scale. Upwards across organizations. So it's, and again, help desk and developing help desk solutions was part of that same journey that I had with social housing. It's like, how do we produce software and solutions that we can provide people that provide service to others and help other people? That was kind of always, in our mindset. And the organization is now built, the whole culture of the organization is a customer services one.
Okay. And I think, yeah, I mean, that's super interesting that you built it all the way back in 2000, early 2000s, right? And uh, I mean, it's got to be wild how different and how mind blowing tech is now compared to then. I mean,
And
that's even,
the speed of change. It's
yeah.
not even the tech is different. This keeping up is hard.
Yeah, I mean, so let's talk about that, man, because like that's like an interesting kind of crossroads that a lot of companies are at, right? They have an established developed solution, and then basically for the last, I don't know, 6 to more mainstream 6, but let's just say last 9 months, people have been getting blasted in the face with the fire hose of AI. So
AI, yeah.
how is that affecting your business with like that rapid pace of change that's unlike anything we've ever seen in our lifetime?
Yeah, in a positive way, I would say. I mean, we could talk about how maybe it can be used in marketing with certain products to help with messaging and things like that. But, as it relates to our products and services, we see it as instrumental in being able to elevate the customer experience. How can
Mhm.
we leverage the technology? How can we leverage knowledge to provide, solutions to customers in a much, much shorter period of time? So, that's how we've been thinking about it. If I'm completely honest with you, it's like drinking through a fire hose at the moment. There are so many possibilities. There are so many things that you can do with it. It's difficult to hone in on the one or two things, for a small company like ours that we can really leverage that can have some significant value from day one. But we've already started. We've started to integrate some of the generative AI within our own product to try and again, find ways to get solutions to customers in a much short period of time.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So, how have you integrated in your product? Like, where's the best possible use cases you're seeing it on the product side? And then I would love to ask you a follow-up question as well.
Yeah, sure. So on the agent side, for somebody on the service desk that's providing service and support to the end user, there's a couple of things we've been doing. One is that as the ticket gets logged, as the information has been recorded, we're using that to go right across the entire knowledge base of that particular customer. To scan through both, previous solutions, previous articles, and then presenting the agent with information that hopefully can solve the problem. So, whereas before we were saying, well, here's 15 articles that might have the solution in there, send these and let the customer read through them, which is obviously time consuming. Now it's consolidating that information and actually providing the agent with something that hopefully will solve that problem, from the outset with the person on the end of the phone, or, via email or whatever that might be.
Okay.
So that's one way. And the other that we've just started looking at now is more predictive analysis. So looking across not just our solution, but, thinking about, the whole partner ecosystem, the whole value chain. How can you leverage data points to actually predict what might actually be happening before it actually happens, to try to stop it at the source. So get to the point where actually we're solving the issue, we're solving the problem before it actually happens. So that's kind of an interesting one. We have a small team that's kind of, analytical team that are kind of working on that at the moment from a reporting perspective.
Okay. So love those two use cases. I guess from the one that you've implemented already, let's talk about the first one. What are tangible outcomes that people are seeing? At least let's talk about the support perspective, right? So It sounds like it's almost like an instant lookup of potential resources that are fine-tuned based on the exact keywords. Like, what are the results like before and after? Would love to hear just like the differential.
Yeah, I don't have KPIs to report, and I must admit, but what I can do is sort of, I can. What we've seen is a reduction in the number of calls coming into the service desk itself. So, there's two ways of obviously, getting help. One is to phone up and speak to somebody, and the other is to go to a self-service portal, that Vivantio has, and log that ticket, log a ticket through that, and then interact with the agent in that way. Now, what we're finding is that more people are relying now on self-service as a mechanism for getting access to help, because that's kind of how they do it in their everyday lives already. And because the AI machine is able to get them access to that information more quickly without having to triage, without having that interaction with an agent at the other end, the agent doesn't get involved. So it's actually reducing the load on the service desk altogether. It's only really working, potentially for things that are easy to solve. The more comprehensive, the more complex problems always end up going through to an agent, and multiple people get involved in solving those issues. But what we're finding is that there's a significant reduction in the number of calls that are coming through to the agent in the first place.
Okay, I love that. And I mean, it makes sense. So I know it's new, so it's early on, so it's hard to always quantify things. But I think, yeah, that's going to be huge. I mean, that use case. Now let's talk about the other side of it. And most founders or CEOs that I talk to focused on the product first. Do you have any initiatives company wide to deploy this on the people side of it? Like, is there anything that you've done systematically with that, or are you not quite there yet?
Yeah, maybe dive in a bit more there. Yeah, not quite sure.
Yeah. So what I mean by that is, like, obviously there's like we're talking, there's an abundance of use cases that you could leverage, whether it be for marketing, whether it be for sales, whether it be even for like product research, anything, right? Any piece in the company. So what I've been hearing, and this is why I'm asking the question, because I'm just curious, like most tech CEOs go straight to the product, right? However, what I'm trying to see is like, is there any patterns or other ways where you're trying to leverage this across all your employees in terms of best practices, prompts, workflows, anything to like superpower your people?
Yeah, I must admit, I suppose not internally, but maybe externally more so. And again, it comes back to some of the AI that we're talking about, and this, mapping the value chain. But what we've started to work on with another UK company at the moment, and looking to do an integration quite soon, is thinking about quantitative data analysis, because we have a lot of information about all of our customers that are providing service and support to their customers across multiple industries. Now, what we want to do is kind of anonymize that data and then provide, people within the healthcare sector or people within education, benchmarking to say, well, these are how your peers are performing as it relates to service and support. they're making use of self-service technology, and that's having an impact on the service team by whatever it is, 30-40%, or they're leveraging workflows, which is optimizing service by 20%. So, if you start to implement some of these changes within your own system and start utilizing some of this technology, this potentially could be the impact that the service management solution has on your team. So I'm thinking, again, I'm always thinking about the customer. So I'm thinking about how we can leverage the information that we have from one customer to potentially support another.
Yeah, no, I think that's awesome, man. I mean, that customers love seeing that, like the best practices, the benchmarks, things along those lines. So, and then any kind of like scorecarding as well is
Yep.
fantastic.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's shift gears a little bit off of AI. So, obviously you self-made the company. I know we talked before. You had a co-founder that was previously involved with you. One of the things I would like to understand really is like in your space, how did you get to this point, right? Like, how did you go from zero to five-ish, right? Like, what was the number one growth strategy that you leveraged to do that? I would love to hear, like, if you could break it down to this one, right, with like 4 or 5 steps or a framework. Like, how did you do that? Like, what would you attribute mostly to that if we're looking at building a company?
That's a good question. So I think there are probably a couple of steps. I think we're a 20-year-old company, so we've been through a few iterations and a few as time has gone on. I think one of the things we first did was realize that Russ and I weren't sales and marketing people, so that wasn't in our wheelhouse. We're customer services people. We had engineering backgrounds, and we were able to write code. So one of the things we had to do from day one is like, well, how do we fill that gap without the money to pay people to do the job? And we did that through channel partners. That kind of worked for us in the UK for a long period of time. We leveraged a relationship with a couple of partners that were able to fill that gap that we didn't have. We didn't have the expertise, so how could we get that expertise without it actually costing any money? So that was the first thing that really kind of got us off the ground. And they whilst Russ and I were doing most of the marketing, because again, we're kind of creative and we understood the technologies like AdWords and pay-per-click campaigns and things like that, we had people that were able to actually sell the software, and they were good at it. The other thing we did was move to the US. I mean, it was a difficult transition. It took a long time to get through, but we understood that and could tell that the US market was obviously a lot larger than the UK market, and there was we wanted to broaden our opportunities. So we embarked on that back in 2011. I moved out to Boston, Massachusetts, and continued to build a team from here. And now 50% of our customers are in the US.
Wow. Okay. Excellent story, man. And then what's the future? Like, what do you see as the future for you over the next 3 to 5 years? Like, what's your goal? Where do you see the company going, especially with all the changes in tech? Like, what do you think is possible?
Yeah, great question. We've kind of done a reevaluation of the company over the last couple of years. We've been bootstrapped, and it's been a lifestyle business for the longest period of time, 20 odd years, really, or well, 15, 16 years. And, Russ had to leave the company, back in 2017 due to personal circumstances, and that kind of put me in the driving seat. So, and it took a couple of years to kind of get used to Russ not being around, having been friends and colleagues for nearly 20 years. And I did a lot of soul searching, and the opportunity in this particular market for service and support is huge, especially it relates to customer service, B2B customer service. There's a lot of pressure being put on operations teams now to drive great customer experience. It has a big impact on bottom line in terms of retention, in terms of helping win new business. And the referrals that come from that. So that, we're seeing a lot of time and energy being invested by CEOs in their operations teams for mid-sized and large enterprise organizations. And there's very little in the market that has solutions to support those teams. So we see Vivantio as a really great fit. And with that, because of that opportunity, we really started to understand what the growth potential is of a service and solution like ours. So we are working on an equity round at the moment. We'll go to market this month to look to raise some growth equity to try and help grow this product, because timing is everything. We have a great tech stack, we have a great product, we have great customers. It's highly scalable, and now it's just about market penetration and just telling as many people as possible about the great products and services that we have and the great teams and the great customers. So one of the reasons we're doing this, is to help build that brand, help get the message out, help educate people. But our plan would be, to try and get to 20 million ARR within the next 3 years.
Okay, excellent, man. Well, I love the goal, love the aggressiveness, and you're right. Like, I'm a big believer in referrals because I've seen it work on multiple levels, and the product is where it starts, right? I think there's a whole nother layer to it that a lot of people miss in terms of like how the customer emotionally feels, and then the timing of like asking and incentives. So, but yeah, I think that's an awesome goal, and congrats on looking at your next stage of growth. So, one other question I didn't ask you yet too is, at this stage, at where you're at, like, what would you say is like your single biggest challenge if you had to break it down? Because that's one of the things that I hear all different answers for it. However, there is consistency to it as well.
Yeah, I suppose where I see myself at the moment spending the most time in the business is on marketing and sales. Our team is relatively new. It's been built out over the last 6 months, so there's a lot of fresh people that have come in, great talented people, but there's a big learning curve for them. But yeah, that go to market is the big thing for me now as we transition into an organization that's looking for growth. How do we scale? How do we reach more people? How do we get our message across succinctly and clearly? How do we ensure that we're not, scattergutting, I say the word now, scattering too much in terms of like, approach, spear fishing versus net fishing, that kind of thing. So that's the kind of biggest challenge for me at the moment is, that go-to-market strategy, understanding which channels are working best for us, where we can, turn the dial up slightly and turn up the dials down on other things. That's really where I spend most of my time with the teams.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. A lot of sense. So, all right. Well, Greg, we're just about up on time. I mean, where can people find you? Where can they find more of Vivantio? And then we'll wrap it up from there.
Yeah, I mean, of course, you can check us out at vivantio.com. There's a newsletter you can subscribe to, which, as I already mentioned, there's multiple blogs that come out every week that talk about service optimization and service delivery and service efficiency that hopefully you'll find helpful and interesting and be able to use within your own organization. And obviously check us out on LinkedIn as well. Yeah.
Excellent, man. Well, it was a pleasure having you on, Greg. Congrats on your journey, and then, best of luck on the next stage. And I think you got some exciting things ahead of you, especially for the market that you're in, because NRR is huge, right? And churn is huge.
Yeah.
And have a solution like yours to combat that and help accelerate the NRR and combat the churn, I think is awesome, man. So thanks for being on the show, Greg.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it. Thanks for listening, everybody, as well.
All right. And we will see you all on the next episode.